Next on KPBS Evening Edition, San Diegans waiting out the wind. From power problems to school closures to tense times across the county. We're live with the wildfire situation here and the destructive fires burning across the state. Plus, a historic vote on Capitol Hill over the impeachment inquiry, the political battle shaping up. And are our children making the grade when it comes to education? A local look at who's doing well in school and who's not. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Thursday, October 31st. Thanks for joining us. I'm Priya Sridhar. It's Halloween and San Diego County has been on quite the scare. The fear of fire looming large due to red flag warnings and Santa Ana winds. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live in Pine Valley with an update on the fire watch locally. Matt?
Yeah, Priya, we've seen some spot fires happening. Crews have been dealing with those, but thankfully we haven't seen any major fires here in San Diego County. But people still have been dealing with power outages due to these fire weather conditions. SDG&E told me around 4 o'clock there were still about 5,000 customers without power. Some good news, though, here in Pine Valley where we are, the power was just restored to everyone in this little area here. But take a look at this video outside this market behind us. They haven't had their power for about little more than a day. They needed a backup generator to power their freezers and some of their fridges. They weren't able to sell any of their pizzas that they have in there. Now, this is the only gas station in town, and a lot of people have been coming here looking for gas, but they've been having to turn them away. People looking to fuel up. There's another one down the road in Descanso. But as we said, for now, the power is back on, and some good news. Forecasters say strong moving Santa Ana winds have slowed down and weather conditions are improving, at least for now.
We'll lose most of the wind. So I think for the most part, everyone can have a break. The bad news is we're not really out of this type of weather pattern. So we're still potentially susceptible as we go into November, the first couple of weeks, of seeing another Santa Ana. It's just not in the near term.
Now, people in this area are very, very happy to have their power back on. We've been talking to some of them. Some of them say they've had their power off for as much as 40 hours. Now, SDG&E, they set up a number of resource centers for people during these power outages. There's actually one just down the street here in Pine Valley. People have been going there to charge their phones. There's Wi-Fi there. There's water if they need it. There's ice. They've said those have been very, very helpful. Now, stores like this, they have some generators. There's a generator at a store across the street just keeping the freezers going. But people, some businesses out here and some residents say they wish that the county or SDG&E or someone could help them with either buying a generator or buying part of a generator if these outages are going to still be becoming the sort of new norm out here. That's what people are saying. They're just happening more and more, and they think that they're happening really too much out in this area. But in Pine Valley, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Thanks, Matt, for that report. Well, just to the north of us, homes burning in San Bernardino, Riverside, LA, and Ventura counties. Northern California as well, still dealing with the massive Kincaid fire. And as Paul Verkaman shows us, officials are urging residents to heed the warnings and what lies ahead.
This is a picture shot from my backyard, my parents' backyard.
Devastation overnight in parts of San Bernardino, California, as some residents awoke to find this.
I gotta go, police is here.
The Hillside Fire is the latest in a series of wildfires wreaking havoc across the state of California. Firefighters rushing to residential neighborhoods, doing whatever they can to contain the new blaze.
My cousin lived right there at that house. You know, they got lucky, you know, and the house behind it. Thank God they got it under control, though.
The fast-moving fire damaged at least 6 homes and at least 2 other buildings in San Bernardino County, according to officials. The speed of the fire underscoring the importance of staying alert.
If folks don't evacuate when we ask them to, it'll be very difficult to try to get them out when the fire is moving toward their homes.
And another new blaze, the 46 fire, broke out in Riverside County. The local high school has been opened as an evacuation center. All across the state, officials are making some headway, but another round of strong winds threatening to pose new challenges.
The weather is going to be a challenge to us today. We're still expecting 20 to 30 mile an hour winds.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says the federal government is assisting and urges all California residents to stay on guard.
And that was Paul Verkaman reporting. The high wind warnings have ended here in San Diego, but we're not out of the woods just yet when it comes to fire danger. Meteorologist Dajia Swad explains the risks.
We are still talking very gusty conditions across Southern California for your Thursday night. The good news is we'll start to see those winds weaken. However, the dry conditions stick with us for tonight, at least through your Saturday, and then we'll notice some improvements on into your Sunday. So winds will weaken. We'll still be noticing mainly dry conditions, no precipitation coming our way anytime soon. And we'll be looking at an onshore flow to return, allowing for a bit more moisture to come back into our environment overall. As we look at your future winds, 7 p.m. tonight is what you're first starting off with. Deeper purples indicating still some very strong gust potential. Tomorrow this time not going to be as strong. And then as we continue into your Saturday, we will have some winds still going offshore, but by Sunday that onshore flow takes over.
It's a historic move. The House of Representatives formalized the impeachment inquiry into President Trump. The vote, split almost entirely along party lines, set the stage for the next more public phase in the investigation. Mary Maloney is in Washington to explain.
The resolution is adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
A divided House sent a message. The impeachment inquiry into President Trump is moving forward.
It's a sad day because nobody comes to Congress to impeach a president of the United States. No one.
The step is significant. For the first time in the Trump presidency, representatives voted on the record and set rules to make the impeachment process more public.
As the inquiry proceeds, we'll decide whether we'll go forward with impeachment. That decision has not been made.
At issue, a whistleblower complaint alleging the president pressured Ukraine to investigate a Democratic rival. The political polarization into the Democratic-led investigation on full display. No Republican voted for the measure. 2 Democrats voted no on the resolution.
Not only did every single Republican reject the Soviet-style impeachment process, but we were even joined by Democrats who couldn't stand it anymore.
Almost immediately, President Trump reacted to the decision, tweeting, "The greatest witch hunt in American history."
In the sham that has been putting this country through this nightmare.
This is the 3rd time the House of Representatives voted on an impeachment inquiry into a sitting president. While it's unclear how quick the investigation will be, what is clear, the process will consume the country's attention before the 2020 elections. In Washington, I'm Mary Maloney.
U.S. troops are on the move to Syria. The first armored vehicles carrying U.S. troops are expected to enter the oil field region of eastern Syria as soon as this week, according to 2 U.S. defense officials. This convoy crossed from Iraq and is heading toward the Syrian town of Kobani, marking the beginning of carrying out President Trump's orders for U.S. troops to defend oil fields in order to keep ISIS from returning. No word on the specific number of troops that have gone back into Syria so far, but it's believed to be less than 200. A new report out looks at how local law enforcement is complying with California's sanctuary state laws 2 years after its passage. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler spoke with one of the report's authors.
2 years ago, California passed SB 54, touted at the time as the strongest sanctuary state law in the country. It was meant to limit local law enforcement's cooperation with federal immigration authorities like Immigration and Customs Enforcement. 2 years later, compliance with the law in San Diego is a mixed bag, according to Felicia Gomez, a policy analyst with the California Immigrant Policy Center who co-authored the report. The Sheriff's Department here in San Diego has decreased the amount of notifications it has sent to ICE that it has an undocumented person in custody, but it has also begun posting publicly the release dates of all people from county jail, making it easier for ICE to make arrests without needing direct cooperation from the sheriff. It's loopholes like this that Gomez wants to focus on.
So for us as advocates, recognizing that release dates are now publicly available, some of them go very much into details such as posting photos of individuals, right, exact time, exact location. That makes it very easy for ICE to then go onto that public website and identify the person that they want to pick up and pick them up either in the parking lot or in the release area of a jail.
According to Gomez, while the Sheriff's Department was one of the first law enforcement agencies in the county to update its policies to conform to SB 54, its practices have not changed all that much.
However, in practice, we still continue to see ICE have unfettered access to county jails, unfettered access to individuals in sheriff custody, right, which raises a lot of concerns around what types of information is being shared.
In a statement, the San Diego Sheriff's Department said it began posting release dates in November 2018 to provide an up-to-date indicator of an individual's release status to the public. The department also says it is still allowing ICE to utilize workspace in county jails. Gomez says her organization is continuing to work with the Sheriff's Department to bring it into full compliance with the law, and that the law, even without full implementation, has been effective.
We are seeing a significant decrease in the number of people that local law enforcement agencies are notifying to ICE, right? So for us, that is one way that we are actually cutting off an arm of the deportation machine and how it functions.
Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
A new government agency that will soon provide electricity to many in San Diego County held its first public meeting today. Elected officials from San Diego, La Mesa, Encinitas, Chula Vista, and Imperial Beach took their oath of office at La Mesa City Hall. Their goal is to start providing cheaper and cleaner electricity to customers by 2021.
They need to plan. So what are we going to do over the next 24 months? What does our budget look like? And some of the documents that we have to file for the state, they're going to be looking at those now and getting an idea of what they'd like to see in them.
The agency operates under a new model called Community Choice Energy. That means elected officials will decide where customers get electricity and how much they pay for it. SDG&E will continue to deliver that electricity through the grid. When a parent drops their child off at school, they expect a high-quality learning environment. And one way to grade how students are doing is through national standardized testing. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong examines how San Diego Unified is making the grade when compared to state and national averages.
The National Assessment of Educational Progress is a test that's administered every 2 years to 4th and 8th graders in urban school districts. While U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos described this year's national results as devastating, San Diego Unified has reason to celebrate. The district has outperformed the state and the country in both math and reading, with between 35% and 42% of students meeting proficiency. In 8th grade reading, the district saw improvement since 2017, while state and national averages slumped. Superintendent Cindy Martin attributes the success to a focus on reading.
We always think about these standardized tests as large-scale metrics on the health of the nation and the health of how our nation's schools are doing. But that happens through investment in early literacy, and that's been key to the strategy in San Diego Unified.
That said, Black, Latino, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students continue to lag behind throughout the country. Martin says the district will use data as a flashlight and not a hammer to illuminate and address individual students at each of its schools. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
A new state law requires hospitals provide additional services to homeless patients before they're discharged. The California Medical Association says the well-intentioned law to prevent patient dumping is overcrowding emergency rooms. KPBS health reporter Taryn Mento spoke with the association's former president and local doctor Ted Mazer about the issue.
Dr. Mazer, thank you so much for joining me. Well, how can medical professionals affect policy to address homelessness?
We have to connect people who are homeless that show up in our emergency rooms, our hospitals, our offices to services. That's very important, but it's also very expensive, and we got presentations showing that emergency rooms, particularly in the Bay Area and Los Angeles, are now backed up with people who we can't find places for, shelters for, and they're not allowed to be discharged. So the emergency rooms are now sheltering, blocking other patients coming in. On a broader level, the California Medical Association is able to work with both local, state, and federal officials, for that matter, in dealing with healthcare issues. So we have the ability to take our policies into either legislation or regulation or focus by leaders.
What are your policies?
Well, number one is recognizing that homelessness is about not just a roof over your head, but the need to find a way to get a roof over your head. But once we do that, we can't stop looking at the needs of that population, or they're going to end up back homeless again on the street, and their health and the health of the community is being affected. So we're looking at ways of tying together mental health services, general health services, food services for people who have no access to food. Mental health is a key issue here. We know that. We've known that for years. But not everybody on the street is a mental health issue. Some of them have other reasons for being on the street, simple poverty. We can look at how healthcare itself, the lack of access to healthcare, has contributed to some of those people being on the street, be it because they couldn't afford the healthcare or they received healthcare and unfortunately didn't have proper coverage for that health care.
This has been discussed before. So what new are you, our doctors, medical professionals, bringing to the table that, San Diego hasn't already spent thousands, millions of dollars trying to do?
We're trying to focus to actually say these are the things that we believe you can focus the expenditure on, be efficient in doing that, and stop the cycle of homelessness, the cycle of sending people back on the street. As an example, if we look at the emergency room situation right now, it's improper. It's actually a real negative that we're taking up to a third of beds in emergency rooms on people who are simply looking for placement. So physicians are going to focus on getting the services to move those patients into the proper level of help, not care. They don't need any further health care at that moment.
How do you make that happen?
You have to work with the regulators. You have to get some of the regulations that are passed in good faith are actually harmful. So the idea that a hospital emergency room is now responsible for someone who walked in with a laceration but is homeless, and they have to take valuable resources, both financial and space, the beds in the hospital, and find a place to put that homeless person, putting the onus on an emergency room physician, on a hospital emergency room, to find homeless people a shelter, blocking other people for access to health care. That's improper. It's expensive. It's injurious to the rest of the population. So now we have to go back and look at those regulations and say, how do we modify the regulations and say, here's another agency that's in existence that needs to be the front line once the patient is ready for discharge from the hospital or the emergency room. It shouldn't be the ER doctor's problem for placement. We understand placement's important, but they have other things to do.
Policy's great, but it needs to actually be implemented.
Absolutely. We know that we have the governor's task force. We had 2 co-sponsors presenting to us, taking our questions, helping us develop that policy, that we now have definitive ways to back the governor, the legislature, the people who are trying to do this in their local communities, and say, okay, the physicians of California are behind this. We will put our resources. We will go to the legislature and push next year's bills that are starting to come out already for the next session starting in January, and put our lobbying efforts into the bills, put our time, our experience, our resources into the governor's task force to help move this forward instead of just talking about it.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Mazur.
Sure. Thank you.
Cases of vaping-related lung disease continues to rise across the country. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say it has confirmed nearly 2,000 cases. 37 people in 24 states have died. The CDC says the lung injuries have all been related to vaping. Health officials still haven't been able to identify the official cause of the outbreak. Most of the deaths have been among people who vape products that include THC. That's the psychoactive compound found in marijuana. The Padres introduced their new manager today. He's 38-year-old Jace Tingler. He has no major league managerial experience and comes from the Texas Rangers organization, where he held mostly player development and front office jobs. Tingler never made it to the majors, but did play minor league baseball. Today, he told reporters he's eager to turn the Padres into a winning team.
I may be a little bit new school and hopefully get the best out of them.
Tingler will now put together his coaching staff. He replaces Andy Green, who was fired with 2 years left on his contract. The Padres haven't had a winning record in 9 years. And congratulations to the Washington Nationals and San Diego native Steven Strasburg. They won Game 7 of the World Series 6-2 over the Houston Astros. The former Aztec star was named the series MVP for his solid pitching performances. It's hot and dry, but the winds are dying down. However, the fire threat remains. Meteorologist Daji Aswad explains.
Strong Santa Ana winds continue to bring in that extreme fire risk. What we will see for tonight is that it is clear out there, meaning no precipitation, but also noticing cool conditions. And in fact, to the north of San Diego County at this point in time, there will be the chance for some hard freezes to take place. We're dropping down to 38 Oceanside, overnight low in Borrego Springs at 40 and 36 at Mount Laguna. No precipitation coming our way for tomorrow either, as high pressure is across the southwest region. Elevated fire risk here there for Los Angeles into portions of San Diego County. So we still want to be very alert in terms of our activities and when it comes to these fire risk. You're looking at a high of 79 in Oceanside, 76 in San Diego for tomorrow, 80 in Borrego Springs, and 63 in Mount Laguna with plenty of sun. Then as we head into the weekend, still remaining dry and warm, still going to be the chance for some offshore flow at least through your Saturday, but not as strong. Some gusts likely to be around 25 miles per hour, which is a huge improvement compared to what we're feeling tonight. We will continue to see our temperatures here at the coast in the upper 70s through Sunday, and a bit more cloud cover as we head into the early week as that onshore flow returns. We'll be topping off in the 80s Friday and Saturday here inland, and then cooling down as we head into your Sunday and Monday. Dry conditions stick with us into the deserts as well, and those winds will begin to ease, meaning some improvements in terms of that fire risk. Mountain region, you're looking at a high of 64 Saturday. Beautiful weekend with dry weather. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Dajia Swad. Back to you.
Halloween is about goblins, candy, and trick-or-treating, and unfortunately, it really is scary when it comes to the danger of car traffic. Speak City Heights reporter Ebony Monet says in City Heights, community leaders are providing alternatives to going door to door.
There's not many signs of Halloween Thursday morning in City Heights.
I just don't think we'll do Halloween this year.
Christina Hart is decidedly staying in.
I don't know if it's really safe to go out.
National numbers show that Halloween is dangerous for young pedestrians, and safety advocates here in San Diego say that children in City Heights are even more at risk.
Maya Rosas with Circulate San Diego says there's reason to be cautious.
We know that in City Heights, people are more likely to be hit by cars while walking than in other parts of the city.
City Heights has 3 of the most deadly corridors for traffic collisions in all of San Diego. And a recent Washington Post analysis of national safety numbers showed children are 3 times more likely to be killed in pedestrian accidents on Halloween than any other day.
You always have Pan de Muerte, which is a bread of the dead.
Judy Thomas with the Boulevard Business Improvement Agency is looking forward to Saturday's Dia de los Muertos celebration at Fair at 44 on El Cajon Boulevard.
We have a kids mariachi band, and then we'll be screening Coco, and we'll have champuradas, face painting.
As National Retail Federation survey results show a waning interest in Halloween, the BIA is offering a series of family activities rich in culture without going door to door.
And you write a little note to somebody who has passed.
Still, Thomas says the BIA's Day of the Dead festivities are in addition to Halloween, not a replacement of.
It's not about costumes. It's a cultural thing of the painting of the skulls, of the sweetness and bitterness of life and death. Where Halloween, I think, is really like a kind of free-for-all celebration.
And safety advocates remind drivers out tonight to be wary of trick-or-treaters. Ebony Monet, KPBS News.
This Halloween, Americans are expected to spend $2.6 billion on candy. And not surprisingly, that generates a whole lot of plastic waste. And it's not just candy. Costumes and decorations can end up clogging landfills and polluting our oceans. In today's Consumer Watch, Mary Maloney has some tips to make your Halloween more eco-friendly.
The scale of waste this Halloween is scary, and plastic is the biggest villain. Most of it comes from candy, costumes, and decorations. And while you may throw away those items after Halloween, the plastic can take centuries to break down and has a way of coming back to haunt us, with millions of pounds of plastic entering the oceans every year, littering our beaches, polluting our oceans, and endangering wildlife. With that in mind, here's how you can decrease your carbon footprint and be kinder to the planet. Number 1, when it comes to candy, consider buying items wrapped and packed in recyclable materials like paper or foil, which is recyclable in some areas. Another option, make your own treats or hand out cash instead. Get creative with costumes. Ditch the poor quality and cheaply made ones that you'll likely only use once. Instead, look at your wardrobe and see what you can create with what you already have. Then visit a thrift store for any extra items, or look into renting a costume. And get crafty with decorations. Invest in decor that you can use for several years to come, or make your own out of recyclable materials. There's lots of inspiration on social media sites. With a little effort, you could have a spooky but sustainable Halloween. For Consumer Watch, I'm Mary Maloney.
If you're looking to pick up some extra holiday cash, UPS wants to help. The United Parcel Service is looking to hire about 100,000 seasonal workers. More than 185 job fairs will happen across the nation tomorrow. The hiring blitz is being called UPS Brown Friday. Many people will be offered jobs on the spot. The delivery company hopes to sign up at least 50,000 employees on that one day. The full and part-time seasonal positions are primarily for package handlers, drivers, and driver helpers. Well, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. We're going to leave you with some homes in Carlsbad getting into the Halloween spirit, courtesy of our video journalist, Andy Dougleth. Thanks for joining us and have a great evening.